What's up, everybody? Seth here with Jack Diesel, and today we're getting some head. In this video, I'm going to cover the full process of replacing cylinder heads on a 6.0 Power Stroke. Now, once we have the cab up in the air, first step, I'm going to kind of start working around the front side of the engine. We'll go ahead and get our fan clutch knocked off, get the fan shroud out of the way, start working on the front side of the engine some, get some pulleys off and out of the way. Then we'll kind of skip around to the back side and get the exhaust up pipes off, get the turbo off. It's a good time to take your oil cap off, let the oil drain down, and then we'll go from there. Couple little tips before getting started. Your brake reservoir here, you want to make sure you keep that upright. You don't want it to fall over and then you'll get air in the brake system. Then you got bleed brakes. Don't want to do that. Then another little tip with these little jam nuts on the fuel lines. Just go ahead and put little zip ties on the line so that way this nut here doesn't fall all the way down. Then it's kind of a pain in the butt to get back up in place. Now this pickup had symptoms of the turbo vanes being stuck. Maybe that's part of the reason why head gasket went out again. But anyway, we're going to check that before pulling the turbo off. So to do that, all you have to do is pull a snap ring out. It's sitting in here. And then you just find yourself a bolt. I took one out of here. Thread that bolt into this cap. And you pull that cap out. And there's going to be a bunch of oil that comes running out. Then go ahead and grab yourself a nice magnet. Shove that in there. And you should be able to move that plunger back and forth, which it moves. It's in here. It's pretty sticky though. Well, it's at least not stuck, but I might, once we get that turbo off, I'll probably split it in half and clean it up anyway. Now, if you're just pulling the turbo off your 6.0, here's a good reference point video for how everything's put together. Just have your two band clamps at the back, two oil line bolts, and then there's one mounting bolt here on the side. There's one hiding down in the back, and then there's another one just over here. It goes down in there. Simple as that. Got the turbo out of the way. Now up next, we'll take the filter housing off. You just have a wiring harness. You gotta pull back out of the way. Then unhook your fuel lines. And then it's 4 Torx bit bolts, just a T45. Take those out. And then you can just lift this guy out of here. After that's out, I like to remove this standpipe just so it doesn't get broke. All it is one T25 Torque. Take that screw out, and then this is just a bit of a turn, and then it lifts right out. The rubber seal likes to get stuck inside of the plastic standpipe. Just keep track of that so you don't lose it. After you get that coolant tube out of here, fuel lines removed, everything unplugged on your wiring harness, just go ahead and gently pull the wiring harness over the top of the intake. This is going to stay resting on your thermostat housing here, so just be gentle with that. But just lay everything over the top on the front side, and then we'll go ahead and pull your Fickum wiring harness and then pull the intake off. These are all of your injector connectors. To unplug them, I just take a pry bar or a flat screwdriver. You just push down on that wire pin, and then you pull that unlocks the connector, and then you just pull straight up. First, we'll have to remove this turbo pedestal. This is your turbo oil drain that has a couple O-rings that just pulls out of that housing. Then there's 4 bolts holding this pedestal down. Then this here is a coolant line that goes through the intake. We'll have to unhook that. I like to put little scratch marks where all of the bolts with studs on top go. You mark them however you want. I just like to make sure they go back where they belong. This pickup is getting a new oil cooler while it's apart. I usually recommend that. I think this one was leaking too, so we're going to do it anyway. But I'm going to pull these sensors out. That one's a 21 millimeter. You have to use a socket on it to get it. But we're going to take this oil cooler loose. You take all these 10 millimeter bolts loose around it, and then there's going to be a bunch of oil that's going to come up out of there. So just have some trays underneath ready to catch it. For this sensor, just grab your handy dandy any size metric wrench. She's a little stuck. Well, I think I got, oh, no, we missed a bolt. That's way better. So, there you can see that's going to be full of oil. Just drop that right in a pan to let it drip. And that's just going to run down the backside. Now up next, we can finally start pulling valve covers off. Just do both sides. And then we'll get to the oil rails and injectors and all that fun stuff. Up next here is your wavy oil rail. This is a newer style. The older style has just a straight log rail, but we're not going to get into that right now. This already has the updated standpipe and rail plug, so it's a 12 millimeter hex head. The original factory style was a 10 millimeter, but they have an updated design for 12 mil. A lot of times when you have a high pressure oil leak, that's a really common spot. So I'm going to replace those anyway. Here's the top half of your standpipe. You can see there's just some O-rings on there. And then here's your rail plug. I usually take a little pry bar. Just get it loosened up. Pull it up out of there. Now you can see it's going to dump oil out. I usually try to hold as much oil as possible in there too, in the rail, because that makes it easier for the initial startup. Now we can get injectors pulled out. Have this handy dandy little tool. You can use it on the top side here. Let's see if I can do this through the phone and still get it out. There's just 2 little tabs you gotta push down. And then the connector comes out of the valve cover, just like that. Otherwise, if you don't want to buy the tool, you can just use a socket. And then the injector bolts on the early ones, they're just a T40 torque. The newer ones, they'll be a T45. Let's get that pulled out. This here is the bottom side of your standpipe. There's another O-ring there that can be common for a leak point. So I'll just pull that out. I'm going to replace them anyway. Another tech-friendly 6.0 tip here. One way to know if your 6.0 injectors are still original is this orange O-ring in the top of the connector. The orange ones were original factory injectors. If they've been changed ones, they'll be green. So as you can tell, this pickup's had 2 of them replaced. This side is all original yet. It's got about 150,000 miles on it. We'll see how much longer these factory ones hold up. Now I'll use a ratchet to break all the injector bolts loose. But then I just take my screw gun, and then the bolt and the bracket will just pull the injector up and out. Or at least it should anyway. And there you have it. That's a 6.0 injector. We'll just go ahead and take these and stack them all back here in line and put everything back in the same hole it came from. Up next, you'll want to get your handy glow plug harness, puller tool. A lot of the times these harnesses are stuck pretty good inside of that valve cover though. So I've also, this is a hose pick tool, but I'll take that. And then you can get in here once the injectors are out, and you can pry on the bottom side of this glow plug connector once your injectors are out. So just be careful with those. They do break pretty easy. Most of the time they're stuck in there good, and I don't know, just work back and forth with them and try not to break them. I like to try and remove the engine oil dipstick tube. It just pulls up out of the block there, if this camera will focus and I don't drop it. But it just pulls up out of the block there. It runs through your exhaust manifold. A lot of the times that O-ring will be stuck in there, so you can't get it without breaking it. And then in that case, I just pull the exhaust manifold off of the head. But this one comes out nice and easy, so we're going to pull it out. And then it's just easier to work with the cylinder head that way. Now we have everything pretty well stripped on the top side. Almost ready to start taking head bolts or head studs loose, whichever you have. This one already has studs, so I'll be reusing those. But before taking this stuff out and taking your valve train loose, obviously the head studs go through rocker arm pedestals on a 6.0. But before going to that, I like taking the coolant drain ports out the side of the block. There's one on each side, so that way when you lift heads off, you won't get coolant in your cylinders. Unfortunately, on the passenger side though, you will have to remove the starter first, so we're going to do that next. If you ever need to do a starter on your 6.0, here's a good overview of how you do that. Just 3 bolts, 1, 2, and then 1 on the back side. 3 right there. Then just your 2 wire connections. Same on the 6.4, pretty simple. These plugs are pretty tight in the block, so always make sure you take yourself a nice beaten stick and make sure you get that hex bit seated down inside of that plug really good. I guess I didn't mention it. It is a 8mm hex bolt, or hex bit. And this will make a mess, so have a pan ready to catch all the juice. Now we can get to the fun part of cracking head bolts loose. I'll crack everything loose, but then I'll start up top here, take all of our rocker arms off and remove valve bridges, push rods, all that fun stuff. Just keep it stacked up in order and organized real nice, and then we'll put it all back in the same place it came from. Up next, all of the 10mm bolts will need taken out. Top, bottom row, and then all the rocker arm ones. Next step, remove all of the top head studs. Now you're going to want to take all of this stuff and throw it across the shop in a nice organized fashion. Once all the oil leak and jazz is out of the way, you can go ahead and remove the rest of your head studs. Then this upper aluminum rocker arm housing piece, that'll just lift right off of there. Set that down gently. There's a couple locating dowel pins in that, don't lose them. There's also an O-ring in here, kind of an O-ring gasket that'll get changed. But then what's left are these 5 little bolts at the top of the head. Pull those bolts out and then the head will be able to come off. Another friendly tip on the driver's side here. If you notice, these fuel lines, they are back behind this bracket and behind the thermostat housing. So when you take this off, they're wrapped around back there behind the head. So my point here for this is when we go to take the head off, I'm going to move these fuel lines over here. So when you're going back together, I'll try to catch this step. It's very important that when we're going together, we set the head down and then bring these fuel lines back over and then put that valve cover housing on. But now we can just take these 5 top bolts out, get this out of the way, and then lift heads off. Let go of it. Dandy. Now here's the fully disassembled product. I'm thinking this is a head gasket that was leaking. It's too bad that I mangled the shit out of it when I was pulling it off, but that's what happens when the dowel pins get caught. So just be careful when you're lifting the heads off. They're kind of heavy. But you can see here, all this black. That's probably from the soot, from soot blowing out, leaking. And this block seems, I don't know, oddly rusty on the deck surface, but we'll start cleaning it up and see what it looks like after we scrape some of the junk off. You know what? Forget this stupid scraper. This is taking too long. Time is money. Thanks everyone for watching. If you found any value in this video, please go subscribe to the channel and leave a like or a comment. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help me for helping you. Or if you think the video sucked, leave a comment on what I should do different. These videos are made with the intentions of helping you, so let me know what I need to do better. Also, if you have ideas for what I should work on next, email details to jackdiesel24@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching. Jack Diesel. Now get out there and build something.